I'm Jennifer Joe. I'm the editor-in-chief of MedTech Boston, and this is...
I'm Soni Salzman, managing editor. Thank you guys for coming.
So I just was going to give a brief welcome, and then we'll start soon. So thank you for being here. This is the MedTech Boston Google Glass Challenge. It's nice to see so many friends and colleagues here tonight. For those who don't know me, I came to Boston in 2010 to enter the Brigham and Mass General Combined Nephrology Fellowship after I finished my internal medicine residency at Georgetown. I was so impressed by the high quality of my teachers and mentors and open-minded and nurturing educational environment that is Boston. And I was in awe of the caliber of people I met at every stage of their career and in every clinical role. Those who have been in Boston for a long time probably take this for granted, but Boston is a very unique place. I was constantly meeting medical students, residents, and fellows, and attendings who were working with innovative biotech and healthcare IT companies, or who had even already started companies of their own. One of the things that sets Boston apart is our drive to innovate and solve problems and help patients. I began attending hackathons and meeting even more brilliant people who were turning their ideas into real solutions. But I began to notice there's no place on the internet where all of this information about medical innovation in Boston was available. I found out about hackathons, panel discussions, symposiums, meetups through my own network of friends and colleagues. Unfortunately, oftentimes people who would have been really contributed to this didn't participate simply because they didn't know that it was occurring. And for that reason, I founded MedTech Boston last year. Our goal is to disseminate information about medical entrepreneurship and innovation in Boston so that more people can participate and contribute. We have a calendar of events. We have a Meet the Innovators where we profile clinicians and innovators in Boston and around the country so that you can learn from them, collaborate with them, and build the next innovation. With this Google Glass Challenge, this is our first event. So we're excited that you guys are all out here and that it's been such a huge success. We plan to have more events in the future, and we look forward to any partnerships. What you may not know is that I am CEO of MedStro, the social and professional network for physicians and medical students. I built MedStro for the same reason I founded MedTech Boston, to provide a place where physicians can meet and learn from other physicians, find mentors, collaborate, and even start their own companies. MedStro is an online community exclusively for physicians and medical students, not like anything ever before. MedStro is a community where you can build your professional network and develop your career and highlight your work and find career opportunities such as moonlighting, building companies, and networking. If you're not a part of MedStro, I invite you to join. Finally, I'd love to recognize the amazing sponsors who have made this event happen. Our gold sponsor is Happy Health, who has paid for the video crew, so you can see this after the event. And also for Google. They have paired with us only in the last week and a half and have made this event really happen. So thank you to them. To make this event happen, Google has provided volunteers to stay after work to keep the place open. So give a round of applause to Google and every other innovator in here. Thank you. So a little word from Soni.
Yeah, well, thank you guys again for coming. Can everyone hear me? Great, okay. So I think that everyone would probably like to know what they're gonna see. It's gonna be a lot of organized chaos, and Jen and I are gonna be emceeing, but we're gonna have a lot of great presentations. Essentially, we're gonna have keynotes who are gonna present, and then we're gonna have a little bit of a break and then a pitch-off session. So you're gonna see the finalists of our Google Glass Challenge pitching off, and then there will be a grand prize winner, fame and glory, and food and snacks. So first of all, should we thank our sponsors? This is a list of everyone who has partnered with us. So do we want to give everyone a chance to speak?
So we're just going to hear a brief word from our partners, starting with Michael Doctor of Hacking Pediatrics. And could the other partners come up to the stage?
Everyone who's on this list, come on up.
Okay, brief word. First of all, thank you to Jen Jo and her team at MedTech Boston and MedStro. So I just want to hear a round of applause for Jen, because organized this fantastic group. Really exciting. Thank you for involving us. You're doing a great job. A little word about Hacking Pediatrics. So the first hacking event took place this past October. It was an event specifically to build solutions for children and their families. And we just were frustrated by the fact that there's amazing people like all the folks in the room here in Boston that can help doctors, clinicians, nurses, families build solutions for issues that are facing kids. So it was an opportunity to bring folks together. I think we had a really fantastically successful event this past October. We're doing it again this October 17th through the 19th, so we'd love to see any or all of you there. And thank you again to our lovely collaborators. I want to just thank my team, Kate Donovan, Alex Pelletier, Judy Wang, and Meg McCabe, who are not here, but feel free to grab me or any others if you have any questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Hacking Pediatrics.
Hi, my name is Dr. Cal, and I'm the founder and president of a nonprofit organization called Health Innovators, whose mission is to promote innovation in healthcare. We are the most active healthcare group here in Boston with more than 4,000 members. We host events every month around two themes. One is around innovation, where we talk about innovation around Google Glass, mobile technology in healthcare, social media in healthcare, and so on. Second is around education, where we talk about ACOs, meaningful use, ICD-10, and so on. Our goal is to make Boston the premier source for healthcare innovation. So come join us. Let's innovate. Let's collaborate, and let's make it happen.
Kayan and Health Innovators.
Thank you. Yeah, it's on. It should be on.
It's on? Ah, there it is. I got to talk right into it. Hi, I'm Don Schwartz. I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I own VectorSpec, a marketing and events management company. And I'm the organizer of Google Glass New England Meetup, which is what this is. This is how this started. I invited Jen and Sony to come on in and take over, and I'm just going to sit in the back and have a good time. But thank you all for coming. Google Glass New England will be having our next meetup on May 3rd. It's going to, around the country, people are running all-day events to show glass to the world. And there's going to be an afternoon event, and then there's going to be an evening night out at some bar in Boston, probably. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Spinks. I am a manager at the iHub at the Brigham, the Innovation Hub. It's a newer innovation hub, founded about a year ago. I'm here with my colleagues Andrea, Josh, and Adam. If you guys want to raise your hands, and you guys should say hi to them tonight in the networking part of this, because the iHub is really here to build collaborations with this innovative community here in Boston. We work closely with our physicians to do hackathons, clinical innovation days. We have a Shark Tank coming up on Wednesday, and that was an opportunity to for physicians to talk about pain points and bring the community of engineers, developers into the Brigham to pitch ideas. It's going to be a sort of pitch-a-thon. It's open to the public. So we'll be doing events like that. We're doing hackathons with some smaller physician groups. We've done hackathons in the past. Check out the website. It's bwhihub.org. So look forward to meeting everybody and hearing the pitches tonight.
Thank you, Melissa, with the Brigham and Women iHub.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Polito, and I'm a PhD student at MIT, and I'm one of the co-leads of a group called Hacking Medicine. And our goal with Hacking Medicine is to bring together engineers, entrepreneurs, clinicians, designers, and scientists to hack on disruptive solutions in medicine and really energize the community on hacking. And if you'd like to learn more about what hacking is, come find me after. We're lucky to work with collaborators like Boston Children's Hospital and Brigham and Women's Hospital and Tufts Medical School. So we are thrilled to be here, but check out our website, hackingmedicine.mit.edu, because we have a lot of amazing events coming up, but just really psyched to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks, Sony. Thanks, Jennifer Joe, for having us. My name is Chris Sanders. I'm from the board of the Boston Young Healthcare Professionals, BYHP for short. we're really excited to be here as one of the event co-sponsors, just because if you look around you, all the people in this room, I mean, chances are there are many different people from other aspects, other disciplines, industries, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect emerging healthcare leaders across the various disciplines within healthcare to educate them on this incredibly complex system, as well as to mobilize their efforts through community service activities throughout the greater Boston area. We have some members from the leadership team, Joe, Madeline, and Aaron. If you guys want to raise your hands, we would be happy. If you're interested in learning more about BOHP, we would be happy to speak with you and, more importantly, to connect with to make connections with impact. Thank you.
Applause to all of our sponsors and collaborators. Thank you, guys. Yes, and now this is Google's Seth Vanderswag.
Hi, everyone. Just a real quick welcome and how excited we are to be hosting this event here on behalf of Google, on behalf of our community affairs team and our Google Glass team. My name is Seth Vanderswag. I run an ad sales team here in the Boston office. As of recent, I'm actually the most tenured Googler in our Boston office, coming up on 10 years. And I say that only because in 10 years, you can imagine the innovation and changes that I've seen, not just at Google, but in the industry. And I think this event is a great example of that. The Google Glass itself, in 3 short years or so, from a handful of engineers with cell phones strapped to the side of their head, basically, to what you see some of the folks in the audience and around the room wearing today. It's amazing, and I think we're just at the beginning of the innovation that's about to take place in how people actually use this, not just in healthcare, but in everyday life. And it's some fundamental changes afoot. So really excited about that. One thing to mention that there are folks from the Google Glass team here demoing. So if you want to try one on, you want to see how it works, please grab them. Can anyone raise their hand there? Who's sort of back there? Great. You can find them. Anyway, welcome. It'll be a great event, and thanks for being at Google.
Thank you, Seth.
You should really hunt down the Google Glass people if you haven't tried it on yet. Hunt them down. It's way too much fun. Yep, that works. Cool. All right, Nayan. Without further ado, we're going to dive right in. This is Nayan Jain, everyone, White House Innovation Fellow. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nayan Jain. I'm one of the Presidential Innovation Fellows working with Health and Human Services on behalf of the White House. So I'm actually helping to help patients get access to their data. And this initiative, Blue Button, sits alongside access to energy data, access to education, access to IRS and other personal types of health information. And this is all under the President's second-term management agenda. But before I get started, I wanted to share a quick story before I talk about Glass and before I talk about Blue Button. A few months into the fellowship, I was invited to an event to meet with an ambassador to the United States. And for the sake of political correctness, I won't mention the country, and you'll see why in a moment. So I arrived early, and security hadn't been set up yet, so I was able to walk in. Of course, I was wearing glass. And I found myself at the event, had the meet and greet, the photo op, everything. About 2.5 hours in, I found myself in a crowd that was thinning out, and the security staff actually started walking towards me. And actually, by security staff, I mean individuals wearing military gear, head to toe, carrying guns. So in my head, I thought they'd be really interested in defense applications for glass, and I'd be excited to share, everything I had with them, in a private demo. So essentially, they came up to me, and the first thing that they said was, "Follow me." So I walked with them to a room, and they started asking me questions. I quickly realized they wanted to know a little bit more about my political affiliations, people that I knew, how I was invited to the event, if I knew Snowden. They actually asked me if I knew him. Long story short, after 40 minutes of interrogation and a bit of escalation, I was able to walk out of the room with glass and my life. So it was definitely quite an experience, and and I guess the point of the story is that, well, one, they thought I was a spy for some reason, but it's really early days for glass. given that it's a new form factor, there are definitely security implications, privacy concerns. It's just a completely new technology, but I don't think that's necessarily the issue. The issue is really about the data that empowers the applications that glass would be running. And currently the data is available in these silos, and which is what Blue Button is really trying to break down. So for the average consumer and for the patient, there's a wealth of information, you know, a variety of information from insurance to claims to clinical, your medical reports, your lab data, just a variety of information. And to help with that, we've designed a website called the Blue Button Connector. And you may have heard of it. It was released around HIMSS. But it's a way to help patients find their health information. So you can directly go in, and it's available live, bluebuttonconnector.healthit.gov. And again, that's a mouthful. It's government, so you know, pardon that. But again, you click to get started. And on the left-hand side, you have a list of sources. So you're able to see health insurance companies, physicians, pharmacies. So for example, if I know that I pick up my medications at Walgreens, I would click on pharmacy, type in Walgreens, and be taken to a profile page. So for the sake of this demo, I'll actually talk about my health insurer. So with Aetna. So once I navigate to Aetna's profile page here, I have a listing of features. So it begins with, and it may be hard to read, but displays the Blue Button logo on their website. So is this an organization that really believes in patient access to data? Are they bought into the movement? Do they provide access to your online information? Can you download your record? Can you share it with your provider? Can you access this information automatically when there are updates? What else can I do with it? Can I, you know, pay my bills online, find an in-network doctor? All these things are sort of listed here. But as a developer, I have an extra layer of information that's a bit more detailed. It provides information down to the level of, you know, is this organization using national standards? Are they building off of a CCDA? Are they simply just providing a text file? Are they even providing the information? Do I have to go in and scrape the information myself? So as a developer, it's essentially a blueprint on how I can access information from these organizations. And this is just a quick plug that if you are a developer, this is a place where you can find the source for the connector so you're able to contribute directly, as well as many of the other projects that we're working on through Blue Button. So I guess without further ado, and I've kept it short, but I wanted to share a quick video about where I think glass will go you know, once we have this ecosystem of connected apps. And a friend of mine over at Box helped me design this, so I can't fully take credit for the entire thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Nayan.
Thank you, Nayan Jain. So Nayan is one of the Presidential Innovation Fellows, so if you have any questions about what that means, please find him afterwards. So introducing Dr. Raphael Grossman. He's the general trauma, advanced laparoscopic, and robotic surgeon, the first person to ever use Google Glass during a live surgery. So we are excited to have him here all the way from Bangor, Maine. Raphael, what's it like in Maine?
Right. Well, thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be in here, and it's such an honor to be able to talk to the experts because you guys are really, in a way, the experts. You are the users. You are the ones who shape the future of this. So I'm originally from Venezuela. I'm a general surgeon and a Google Glass explorer. I've been an explorer for about a year. And that's a picture of my hometown. And, I show these pictures because that's where I work. That's Eastern Maine Medical Center. So people think about my sanity when I show them this is February in front of the hospital, Eastern Maine Medical Center. So Google Glass is really a device that, for me, represents the natural evolution of the computing device. I think healthcare is in trouble, and that's a number, 440,000 deaths that happen from preventable medical errors in the United States only. And that is a number that is obviously unacceptable. 40 times a week in the United States, we have patients who have wrong side surgery. And I really think that a device like this has the potential to really shape and improve the way we give healthcare and we teach healthcare. It's been said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think a video is worth 1,000 pictures, and hence the benefit of having a telemedicine. I'm a big telemedicine sort of pioneer or preacher, I guess, and telemedicine allows us to do virtual medicine through live streaming. And one of the reasons that telemedicine is important is because we know that there is about 1 billion office visits approximately in the United States, and 80% of those visits don't require the physical touch. So if you go to see your doctor many times, almost 80% of the times, you don't really require the doctor to touch you. So having a remote connection really has a reason, and that's the reason why a device like Google Glass has incredible potential. Like I said, I see Google Glass as the natural evolution in the computing device, connecting us humans to the digital realm. Just like in the past we used devices that were big, now we have been shrinking those devices. So we've been shrinking those devices to Google Glass. And I think that this is just another step, and eventually something like Google Glass or Google Glass will substitute all those other tools that we use to connect to the digital realm. And I'm really a true believer of that. So the questions are multiple, and Google Glass, obviously, this is a first edition, and it's an incredible, very cool and awesome first edition, but it's evolving as everything else is. There are a lot of questions, and obviously there is sometimes problems with technology because technology doesn't work the way we want. So, anyways, Google Glass, that's the way. I wanted to show you. That's right. Well, what I had was I showed that segment of a video from Terminator, and as you can remember, Terminator 1, the movie, head-up displays are not a new thing. Back 30 years ago, we were thinking about head-up displays, and that's really what Google Glass is, except that Google Glass allows us to do anything we can do with a smartphone, but in front of our eyes. So I started using this device about almost a year ago. Like I said, I'm a general surgeon, a full-time general surgeon. I do from bread and butter general surgery to robotic surgery. And I see myself also as an innovator, as a sort of a preacher of healthcare innovation. And I've been, after I became a Google Glass Explorer, I've been really running around the world, actually looking for venues that want to hear my vision of what Google Glass does. So this is an early drawing of Da Vinci. And there is something that looks like Google Glass in there. And that's sort of the evolution of a device like this. Big early prototypes to very slim final first editions, which are certainly going to be slimmer and smaller. And everything evolves. This is a conference, last year. And now, we are using phones, smartphones everywhere, and whoever is not is the weird person. And, if someone is walking, they're all looking down. So why look down where you can, have glass and integrate your information with you without even having to look down or use your fingers? This is the first glass meet that I went, New England glass meet, organized by Don Swartz, and everyone had glass in there. So I see glass in healthcare as a data disruptor. If we can disrupt the flow of data and integrate the electronic medical records with a glass, then we'll really achieve something. We have electronic medical records, but the way we use the medical records these days is the same way we did it with pen and paper, years ago. We still control the data. Us humans input the data, and we bring the data. If we can have a device like Google Glass that has sort of artificial intelligence
or and organize all the information you need
or deep learning systems, sort of like Google Now, integrated in healthcare, that's really going to make healthcare really profoundly change. Imagine Google Now for healthcare, where you don't have to think. Data comes to you intuitively and alerts you of an allergy, alerts you of the wrong side surgery. That's where the change is going to happen. So I was going to show you a nice video here of a friend of mine, Lucien Engelen, from Holland, from one of the Dutch universities there, and he basically has Google Glass walking in the hallways and recognizing the patient location and looking at the patient's data and face, sort of like Nayan showed, and then every information in the medical record integrated with Google Glass. So does the patient has an allergy? Does the patient need more oxygen? Things that are really, really important.
Give me patient information.
Imagine a Google Glass in a trauma situation where we can have the information beamed to us intuitively without us having to think about this.
Timeout complete.
Okay, Glass, record an op note and take an order.
Wow, this video played. Yeah, and that's a shame because I had a few cool videos, but this is a sort of a simulated situation for Glass, and that's been in the internet. We had a nurse on a high-tech mannequin with a problem, and he wanted the expert surgeon or whatnot in a remote location guide him. So telementoring for Google Glass is something that is also a sort of a holy grail. Being able to remotely teach or help someone in trouble do a procedure or help someone take care of a patient. Glass is certainly the perfect platform for that. So you are beaming the information to someone with Google Glass remotely located. I was just across the hallway, basically. But just to prove the point that this is something, this is the way we still learn medicine. Students cram behind you in the operating room trying to see what you're doing in the operating room. Well, Glass allows us to basically show them our perspective, our point of view. They can not just see that in a recorded video. They can actually be there virtually present with us, and they can answer questions, they can ask questions, and they can be seen through our eyes exactly what the surgeon is doing. So when we did the first surgery with Glass, that's what I showed, that point of view of how to do a procedure. You can be located anywhere, and you can be there with me, looking exactly what I'm looking. Imagine that I'm doing a procedure, and I get in trouble. I want to have the expert somewhere, help me. Well, he can know and see exactly what I'm seeing just with a device like this. This is a Christian Assad of CPR Glass. He's a cardiologist, Google Glass Explorer in Texas. And he and I did sort of a glass-to-glass consultation. We did sort of the first one, this first simulated glass-to-glass consultation. And Google Glass Explorer Assad was watching what Google Glass Grossman was seeing and answering the questions from that this critical care nurse had. So then applications are booming. Everyone has the new app that can integrate with Glass, and this one allows the actual video stream from a microscope. And this is a proof of concept, but that streaming can be beamed to the Google Glass of a nurse or an assistant who needs to hand the instruments. So if you have someone doing microscopic surgery, you can't really see what they're doing because they're under the microscope. Well, you can have the video feed of the microscope to your Glass, so you know exactly the steps of the operation, and you can help better this microsurgeon. So Marlies Schriven, she is also a Dutch surgeon. She and I did a first live glass-to-glass consultation. She was a few miles away. I was at the Games for Health conference last year as a keynote speaker, and a few miles away she was operating on a patient, and she had Google Glass, and I had Google Glass, and she was beaming her image to my Glass, and from my Glass to my tablet, and to the tablet to the LCD, and 300 people were watching exactly what she was watching in the operating room. So if she needed help, or if I wanted to learn what she was doing, then Glass enabled that for us. So, and then finally, there's a few sort of simulated situations. This is how we do healthcare right now, interacting with the patient in a way that is not direct, that is not really allowing us to keep that conversation flowing because we have to look at the digital data. So we can do it on a tablet and have sort of the same disruption of the eye-to-eye contact. So a device like glass can really improve on that because you actually have line of communication, face-to-face, eye-to-eye with that patient. You barely have to look up, so you don't get distracted, you don't get away from the patient, you are connected even better than ever because of a device like a glass. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Grossman. Next, we have Chris Coburn, Vice President of Partners Innovation. He is responsible for the commercial applications and the unique assets and capabilities of the $10 billion Boston-based Partners Healthcare System. Partners Healthcare is the largest academic research enterprise in the U.S. with nearly $1.5 billion in sponsored research. Thank you, Chris, for being here.
Jen, thank you. Nice to meet everyone. I'm only going to talk for a second because there's a brilliant panel coming after me, and there's already one brilliant physician before. To think he probably does 400 surgeries a year in addition to all that experimentation. So just a couple quick thoughts. Obviously, this is a time of great change and transformation in healthcare. Traditional organizations are being upended. 2 years ago, there were 6,000 hospitals in the U.S. Some people would argue 10 years from now there'll be 600. Other people would argue there'd be 60, or some would say there'll be 60,000 as the mode of delivering care changes. So in the background of all that and all that shifting in the largest piece of the healthcare world, in the hospital and integrated delivery network portion, as that's being reordered, questions about the traditional roles of innovation, funding for laboratory science is down significantly. If you look at federal support, the big research companies, pharmaceutical companies are themselves restructuring and many of them shedding operations. Healthcare venture down dramatically in most categories since 2008. So all this change is taking place, but at the same time, of course, there's a response to that change. More and more companies are involved in the venture business. They're now investing actively. We look at hospitals themselves becoming very active as backers of technology. We have a small investment fund ourselves. In a sense, the Darwinian principles have come to the venture world. The strongest and best resourced are the ones that are surviving, particularly here in Boston. It's eroded significantly elsewhere in the country. And in a sense, when you think about how the traditional areas of innovation are themselves, in some instances, being eclipsed, the laboratory or the operating room, and now you have population health and primary care. So you're really talking about, if you will, a democratization of innovation in healthcare. Think of it as the Jeffersonian period, if you will. So this ubiquity of data that you're going to hear about throughout the night tonight, whether it's coming through EMRs or genetic analysis, is changing healthcare, and thinking about the tools that make it relevant and available, and the ability to support decision making in real time is so key. And I assume that's what a lot of the folks who follow me will talk about, is how they're working. But in the end, the fundamentals are still there. The center of the medical universe is the patient and physician encounter, how information works its way into that and can be used in a practical, realistic way that can be integrated into workflows is really, I think, the question that whether it's technologies like what we're talking about today or other more consumer-oriented abilities enter the realm. In the end, if you're talking about the biggest portions of healthcare, it's the ability to shift how that patient-physician encounter occurs. So again, I look forward to learning some things tonight. I already have. And just a heads up, a year from now, April 27th to the 29th, Partners Healthcare will be sponsoring the World Medical Innovation Forum. You can think of it as the Davos of healthcare here in Boston. We'll have a lot of announcements coming on that soon. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Chris. So now we have Dr. Karandeep Singh, which is a very special treat. He will be demoing the Brigham and Women's prototype Google Glass wearable EHR for the first time to the public. So please welcome Dr. Singh.
We had an extra one actually put in, but I don't know where that one went. Do you know what the extra one is?
Thanks, Stephen.
Oh,
There it
over there.
is.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All right, so do we need to switch inputs to get on this one? Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Takes 7 seconds?
7 seconds.
We have to wait a whole 7 seconds?
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
And why does Dr. Horn know that?
So thank you, Jennifer, for having me. My name is Karandeep Singh. I'm a nephrology fellow at Brigham and Women's, and I'm an informatics fellow at Harvard Medical School. And before I talk to you about our wearable electronic health record prototype for Google Glass, I want to talk to you a little bit about the art of medicine. So before EHRs came about, if you wanted to find out how a patient was doing, what you did was you went right to their bedside. You examined them, you took a look at them, you spoke with them, you looked at the paper chart, and all in all, you got a pretty good sense of what was going on with that patient. The advent of electronic health records in their traditional form has significantly changed that relationship. And I think I would argue that at times, we actually equate looking at a patient's electronic chart from the comfort of our desk to actually seeing that patient. And I think in many instances, this actually means that the science of medicine has actually been preserved, but the art of medicine, some of the art of medicine, has been lost. So traditional electronic health records are powerful tools. The thing that they do best is they take multiple types of information and they put it all in one place so that you can access it. And if you're willing to click through enough menus, you can get to any type of information that you want, whether it be lab data, medication information, or imaging information. But there are some things that a traditional electronic health record doesn't do as well, where a wearable electronic health record may actually be better suited for the job. So I want to talk to you about a few of these. So first, a traditional electronic health record doesn't understand context. So you or I know that if you're actually on the hospital on the wards seeing, and you actually walk by a group of doctors and a group of nurses, and they're talking, chances are they're talking about the patient right inside the room who they're outside of. And if you're a doctor and you actually go to the dialysis unit, you go and see patients in a patient room, in clinic, or in the OR, you may want different types of information based on where you are. And that actually changes, and that's context, and that's what traditional electronic health records don't actually have. Second, they're entirely absent where you need them most, which is the bedside. So if you're gloved up and you're seeing a patient with abdominal pain, and you see they have a surgical scar, and you ask them, hey, how did you get that surgical scar? What surgery did you have? It's not uncommon to hear that, well, you know, I had a surgery about 2, 3, 4 years ago. I just can't remember what it is. And if they're here for abdominal pain, you need to know that information. And so you have two options. Either you break that encounter, go outside, get the information that you need, or you get the information right at the bedside without breaking that encounter. And that's the flexibility that a wearable electronic health record offers that a traditional electronic health record can't. And lastly, traditional electronic health records assume that you, the physician, will actually design your workflow to work around them rather than the other way around. So anyone, who's a physician in this room? Okay, so if you've worked in a hospital, you've probably done this thing that we call pre-rounding. And so pre-rounding is this process where before you ever set foot in a patient's room in the hospital, you spend about an hour actually reviewing all the information for every single patient that you see. And so why do we actually do this? So I would argue that we pre-round not because it's best for patient care, but because it's the easiest way to deliver patient care in the current setting with traditional electronic health records. So let me actually show you how I'd like to use the electronic health record. So first, I show up in the morning. I actually want the ability to get access to my list of patients. And if I heard that someone was sick overnight, so let's say Kathy was sick overnight, I want to quickly be able to go to Kathy's chart. So let's actually scroll up. and we've got Kathy, and so Kathy's in Tower 8A, and so I want to be able to go see Kathy very quickly. So let's actually take care of this, find out Kathy's actually okay, and now I want to actually go see my patients room to room to room. I want to quickly be able to switch between that context and the context where all my patients are now sorted by what room they're in. And so now we can actually two-finger tap, and so now all the patients have been sorted, and now I can go see our test patient, who's actually named Test, on 11C, work my way down to 11A, 8A, the third floor, and then finally make my way over to the Shapiro building, which is another building at Brigham and Women's. So now let's say I actually found out that there's a patient, William, who's actually pretty sick right now, so we actually need to see him right away. Now, I'm a kidney doctor, and so what I was told is that he actually has abnormal electrolytes, and so that's the presenting complaint. So I actually want the electronic health record to have to automatically be able to pull up where I am in the hospital using an RFID tag and actually show me the patient's info that I actually need to get. So let's triple tap and actually three-finger tap and get to William's chart. Perfect. So first thing I want to know actually is what do the labs show? Because that was one of the big things that I was told that this patient needs to be seen for. Show me the lab results. So the important thing here is that we're actually right at the patient's bedside, looking at the patient. And as we're looking at the patient, we can get access to this information. And so the lab data right now happens to come in a little bit slowly, but the important point is that we're not now sitting at a computer desk. We're actually right by the patient. And so very quickly, we can see in kind of traditional physician notation that the sodium is actually quite low at 120. The chloride is quite low at 82. And so this is someone who deserves to be in the intensive care unit. So next question I have is, okay, so the sodium is quite low. Maybe I want to look at some other labs. I can scroll down. If I want to, oh, did it get unplugged? Sorry. 7 seconds. So if I want to scroll down the list, I can look down. If I want to go back up, I can look up. And so let me focus in on that sodium and try to figure out why this patient has a low sodium. Show me the trend for sodium. That's good enough. You have to build in some fuzziness when the... All right, so here we go. So last sodium was pretty low, but actually all the sodiums before that look like they actually have been relatively normal, a few low ones there. And going back to 2002, we can see that the sodiums are actually 140, and so they're normal. So now we actually have a different context, and we know that something changed. So one of the reasons people get low sodium is medications. Show me the medications. And now if this patient could actually talk, he's in the ICU, he's intubated, he unfortunately can't tell me anything, but if he could, I could actually use this as an opportunity to actually engage with the patient. So looking at this list, I can tell you as a kidney doctor that diazide and Zoloft are two medications that probably are causing the low sodium. So very quickly at the bedside, I'm going to turn to the ICU team and say, intensive care unit team, I would go ahead and stop the diazide. I would go ahead and stop the Zoloft if you haven't done so already. So another thing I do very commonly as a kidney fellow is I put in lines. And so the ICU team actually said, oh, it's so great that you're here. We just placed a central line on a patient. And a central line is basically an intravenous catheter that we use to deliver medications. And you have to make sure it goes in the right place. So it goes through the neck, and it's supposed to end just above the heart. And so they're actually saying, all right, well, why don't you make sure that line's in place since you're already here seeing this patient? So I say, sure, I'll take care of it. Show me the chest x-ray. Okay, so let's actually zoom out, get a better look at just the overall picture. Perfect. So we can see the left lung looks not so good. There's a line coming in from the very top on your left, and that's actually the central line. There's another line in the middle that's a nasogastric tube. And so I want to get a better look at that central line, make sure it doesn't go into the heart, that it ends just above. So let me actually zoom in. So I can go left and right. And I would argue that that line actually looks okay, and so they can go ahead and use it. And so now that we're done with the clinical encounter, one thing I might want to do is actually talk to the primary care doctor, give him an update on what just happened. Who's the primary care doctor? Something went wrong. All right. Who's the primary care doctor? It's very possible they don't have one, but hopefully they do. So, oh, excellent. It's actually my friend Clifford. And so, one important thing is that this was able to text it to me, and now I can click to dial. I can talk to Clifford, give him an update on his patient, Mr. William Test. And we've now closed the clinical encounter. And again, this would usually be done all from the comfort of your desk. And now we're saying we're doing this at the bedside, where actually is probably the best place to do this. So I hope what I've shown you is that the use of a wearable electronic health record has the potential to fundamentally change the way we approach patient care and bring back some of that lost art of medicine. By overcoming the limitations of a traditional electronic health record, we have the opportunity to interface with information about patients where we need it most, at the patient's bedside. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Karandeep. Next, we have another 7-second switchover, and we have Stephen Horn, who's the emergency lead for Google Glass project at Beth Israel Deaconess. So thank you so much, Stephen, for coming. And we're going to let you get set up here.
Is this work?
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to use that instead.
All right, sounds good. Yeah.
So as Dr. Horn gets set up for his grand reveal, immediately after this, we're going to take a break for food and drink. So they're setting up in the back. It'll be a quick break, about 10 minutes. We want this to be pretty informal. And then we're going to regather here and hear the 10 pitch-offs. So Dr. Horn?
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm going to use this mic if that's okay. So thank you, Jennifer. I'm really excited to be here and share with the Glass community some of the really innovative work that we've been doing with both Google Glass and artificial intelligence over the past 6 months, but really 10 years. And so I'm going to tell you some of the stuff. This is the BI emergency department where I work as an attending physician. And the emergency department is a really interesting place. Actually, before I do that, do you mind holding my pager for a little bit? Thanks. So the ED is a really interesting place. It's a very information-intensive place where even having a small amount of information can really make a large difference. And where having timely access to this critical information can really save lives. And so it's really about getting the right information to the right person at the right time. So I'm gonna share with you a little bit of our story. Ever since we developed our first EMR back in the 1970s and we're on our VT100 terminals, we've been dreaming about wearable computing. We've been dreaming about getting away from the computer and back to the bedside. And so I'm going to kind of tell you about some of a little bit about our journey to our live deployment of Google Glass. And so this wasn't really an accident. We've tested well over a dozen different devices over the years, from the compact iPad to the iPad to the Samsung Galaxy Tab. And so this is just a small sampling of the things that we've done. Now, each of these devices has its pros and cons. But although all of them are portable, none of them were wearable, not until Google Glass. So if, portable computing, if we just kind of consider that, really has the potential to unleash you from the workstation, to unshackle you, and really have some dramatic improvements in clinical workflow. It's no longer I go see the patient, go back to the workstation, figure out what I have to do next, go back to the next patient, go back to the computer, and back to the patient. It means that we can go from patient to patient to patient. And that can really have some dramatic improvements. And so when we went live with the iPad, live one day after they came out, actually, we deployed them live. And we did a study looking at how it affected clinician workflow. And we found that clinicians spent, on average, 38 minutes less at a workstation over an 8-hour shift. And so you can imagine that's a really dramatic improvement. Now, we're doing the same thing with Google Glass in our live deployment, and we anticipate we'll get better. We'll get the same, if not better, improvements. We here at Beth Israel are a clinical informatics shop. We're really good programmers, I like to think anyway, and we're really good clinical informaticians. And so we really wanted to focus our energies on doing that, about building really powerful applications that can not only improve clinician workflow, but also transform healthcare and augment our ability to provide clinical care. And so what we chose to do is we wanted to partner with someone with that kind of experience in wearable technologies. And so we partnered with Wearable Intelligence, who's sitting right next to me, is going to provide some tech support, hopefully. And so they're really great. They're in the market of wearable technology for both energy, field services, as well as healthcare. And they've really been a tremendous partner in getting us up and going. And so we were live, at least in our beta phase, maybe 3 weeks after we got our hands on glass. So a little bit longer than our 1 day with the iPads. Took a little more work in how to get our devices HIPAA secure and as secure as any of our other clinical applications. So this is a picture of some of our docs using Google Glass and in our live deployment. And you can see you can still collaborate, you can still talk to patients, and you can kind of still do your work and use the computer if you need to. And so that's kind of it. So what I'd like to do next is, for kind of the first half of this, I'm going to talk about V1 of our live deployment. So really kind of information retrieval applications. And then I'm going to, on the second half, talk about some of our more advanced applications, which take full advantage of machine learning and artificial intelligence and advanced information retrieval, and how that really can transform healthcare. So this first screen right here, hopefully I'm not too jittery, is a list of all the patients that I could kind of see in the emergency department right now, with both their room number as well as their name. You'll see XXXYYY because, well, I need to protect health information. So I can kind of swipe and see the patient's vital signs, their triage note, and things like that. I'm just going to kind of go through this really quickly. And you can also see, so one of the things that we are often frustrated in, we're a big academic center. We've got a lot of medical students rotating and a lot of people that we might not recognize. And so the question is, I don't take care of all the patients all at once. And so it's not unusual for a patient to come up to me and say, hey, I need X, Y, or Z. Who's my nurse? And I'll be like, well, so this is a quick way of saying, oh, this is your nurse, and actually she's right there. Or this is your medical student, and they're right there. We also have things like MD comments, which is a nice kind of rolling tally of what's happening with the patient as well as their plan. And this is a way of us kind of communicating with all of our staff. And so this is really just a projection of our EMR. There's nothing special here. It's just it's a glass view of our normal clinical applications. So you can also have medication reconciliation, allergies, their problem list. I guess we're a little bit lagged. Yeah. So there you go. So let it wait for a second, as well as kind of what orders have been placed on the patient. And this is all live streaming data. So as soon as it's updated on the EMR, it's updated here as well. Laboratory results, radiology, and let's say we want to look at their images. We render all of our DICOM images into JPEG, which is accessible by glass, and we do the same thing with our EKGs as well. We have to wait for, fortunately, the screen casting is a little bit slower than glass itself. There you go. So let's say you're kind of tied up. I work in the emergency department. We do a lot of critical care procedures like central lines or pacemaker placements, things like that. And so let's say you're scrubbed up in a central line, you're all gloved up, you can't really touch anything, but the patient's bucking and you can't, and you need more sedation or you need more something, right? We can actually page through glass. Or for example, I walk by a patient and the patient's extremely hypotensive and I want to let my colleague, another attending, know about it. And so I would say, operator, page attending. No. Operator, page attending. No. This patient is extremely hypotensive, period. You need to be here, period. and that will go straight to my pager. So it's a nice way of being hands-free and communicating with our other healthcare team. So that's kind of the actually, do I have anything else? Oh, yep, that's kind of the first part of our of V1. And so what V2 is really how do we integrate with our entire enterprise? And so this is a screen that's generated on the fly that taps into the Massachusetts Prescription Monitoring Program. And we can tell really quickly, is this patient abusing opioids? And so we can get all that information about the patient, not just from our systems, from other systems as well. And so if you notice, it kind of keeps jumping every once in a while. It's because we also have voice commands that control the navigation, and so I can jump to specific cards. It's a little bit buggy with the new version of Android. And so the next thing we wanted to do is we wanted to use machine learning and utilize all the data that we have about the patient, their past medical history, their current medical history, all the repeated vital signs, and risk stratify them to tell who's sick, who's not sick, who do I need to see next that hasn't been seen. And so this is a graphical visualization of how sick they are based on their predicted 30-day mortality using really deep machine learning techniques. And this has been a collaboration with my partners at NYU, with David Sontag and his group of PhD students who've been helping us kind of develop the machine learning theory of how to deal with kind of clinical big data. So another thing that we've been working on is, well, how do you tell patient context? So you can kind of go through every screen and look for pieces of information individually, or you can have context-specific displays of information that are tailored to that patient's disease process. So what you saw a little bit earlier was the cardiac screen, which is predicted based on all their information. And so we don't tell them that the patient has a cardiac complaint. We learn that and we infer that, that state. And what we do is we show very specific tailored screens to that patient so they can very quickly tell what's going on with that patient. So you can see that this patient's last stress was in 5/9/13, and last cath never had one, and the last EF was 35%. And you can kind of scroll down and look at their EKG, and kind of scroll even further and look at their chest X-ray. The screen's a little bit, just a little bit laggy. So the last thing I kind of want to show you guys is, well, let's say you've got all the information and you want to get access to it. Let's say you want to search across your entire enterprise in free text, and you want to do it in a way that is able to get all the synonyms. And so you could say something like, operator, record a note. This is a 35-year-old male complaining of chest pain, period. He has no family history of cardiac disease, period. He is on no blood thinners, period. Not perfect, so sorry. So this is actually the dictation function. So if I was seeing a patient, I can dictate in real time, and that'll go straight to the electronic medical record. I should have a screen here somewhere showing that. Let me just reload. And so that'll go to the dictation screen. But let's go back to the other example. Let's say I wanted to kind of search for the patient. He had an operation sometime. He doesn't remember, right? Or he doesn't really know his medical history. We could say, operator, record a note. Ooh, I got logged out. Let's try one more time. All right, I'm going to have you log me back in. It's kind of interesting. So what we do is our glass is actually on our hospital network, and we lock it to our hospital network, and it's just as secure as any lab patient. And so to do this demo, we've had to go around our security measures just a little bit, and so it's a little bit buggier than it's supposed to be. So this is central lines. Actually. Oops. This is one of our nurses. We're also working on nursing applications as well for Google Glass and for things like medication reconciliation and others. But what I wanted to show you was, there you go, was the newest thing we're working on. So right now we determine patient context based on QR codes that are in front of the patient rooms that tell what room you're looking at. What we're actually working on, that was kind of a stopgap measure until the new Android version came out, which just came out about a week ago, called KitKat. And what we're really waiting for was Bluetooth LE. And so we're putting Bluetooth beacons in every single room so that you no longer have to scan a room. As soon as you walk by the room, the glass knows exactly where you are, and it can deliver that information whether or not you're looking for it or not. Okay. And let's try that one more time. Operator, record a note. Operator, record a note. Search for hypertension. Oops, didn't get the last one. Operator, record a note. Search for diabetes. Let me get back on the search screen. KGs, dictation. And give it a couple seconds. So it usually shows the search results. We can probably show you what you should have seen. And maybe it'll work in a second. What you should have seen was this. And so it's real-time information retrieval that searches the entire enterprise, so terabytes of data, and not just for the search term that it gives you, that you give it, but also it uses deep machine learning to learn what words are associated with that. So if you're searching for diabetes, it'll also give you mellitus, hypertension, or diabetic, other things that are also kind of related to that. And so that's kind of what we have. I'm about out of time, so I'm going to call it a day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thanks so much. So, okay, before I let you guys go to get food, just a show of hands, who has actually worn a Google Glass, including everyone back here? Okay, so you guys know that everything that was being shown is in this tiny little prism that you kind of look up to the side. And in fact, I'd love to call up Margot and Brian. They are here from Google Glass, and they are going to be giving demonstrations. So if you see their lovely faces and you've never tried on a pair of Google Glasses, don't be afraid to ask. And now we're going to take about a 10-minute break. Everyone can get food, get drink, then we're going to reconvene for the panel discussion.